Excuse me. I want to start with your name. Ego is such a unique name. Does it have Nigerian roots?
Absolutely. My full first name is Ego Bunma Nwodim. Well, full first name is Ego Bunma, last name is Nwodim. But my full first name is Ego Bunma. It is Igbo. My family is from Rivers State in Nigeria, but from a village called Eche, which has some overlap with the Igbo language. And ego quite literally means money. We were just talking about money.
I think you are the first person on this podcast that is from Baltimore, which I love.
By the way, thank you. My pride and joy. I'm so proud to be from Baltimore. Thank you.
I was really interested to learn that everybody in your family is in the medical or science field. And I was kind of laughing because I'm Jewish and the only people who have parents that are crazier than mine are my Nigerian friends. Like there's just like an intensity that both of our cultures have that makes me really laugh. And so you studied biology and your dream, of course, was to be an actress. And so you made this deal with your mom.
Yes.
Will you tell me what that deal was?
Okay, the deal was, everyone in my family who lives stateside is pretty much in the medical field, as you said. So when I said I wanted to be an actor, it was sort of like, what is this girl talking about? And being first generation as well, I feel like it's an experience a lot of first gen people share where their families expect for them to like go into a relatively stable career. Often that's like medicine, engineering, or law. Mm-hmm. And in my case, it was like, it's got to be medicine and maybe engineering if you must. But like, basically, I knew I wanted to be an actor. I knew I didn't know how to make that happen in Baltimore for myself. But what I did know, with the little bit I knew about entertainment industry, that it was like largely based in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And so I thought I have to just get to where the acting happens. And from there, I can get a lay of the land, understand what's going on, and then devise a plan. But it's kind of impossible, so removed from it, to devise a plan. So I was like, I just need to get there. It's 3,000 miles away, but I need to get there. And college was my ticket. So going across the country for college was also something that was quite foreign to my family. Like, we're a pretty tight-knit family. And so the deal I made with my mother was like, I will study biology. I will be pre-med. I will do the thing that is safe and secure to you and start to embark on that path if you let me go across the country for college. So she did let me go across the country. I was pre-med. I did study biology. I got a degree in biology, but the whole time I was part of this like master plan to just get over there. Like the only way I knew I could move to LA, there was just no version of me telling my mom, like, I want to move to LA to pursue acting at 18 and like, I'm not going to go to college. There's no way that was going to fly. So that was my master plan. And it worked. It fucking worked.
It worked so well. When did you end up taking your first improv class?
Okay, so I took my first improv class, I would say in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, which is about 2 years after I graduated from college. And it was begrudgingly. I'd been advised by quite a few people to take an improv class, but I was so resistant because at that point in my career or my journey, I was starting to get the sense that people were telling aspiring actors things to do that were kind of like made up at a certain point where it was like busy work, where it's like, go get new headshots, you have to get new headshots, you have to take this workshop, you have to take this class, you have to do this thing. And at a certain point, I started to get kind of skeptical. And my like spidey senses are like, this is a lot of feels like busy work to make us feel like we're up to something, but we're probably spinning around in circles or like hamsters in a wheel. And so by the time improv came up, I wish it was one of the first things people told me because I would have jumped in without a thought. But it was towards the end, this period of like, go do this, go do that. Okay, these headshots don't look right. Go to this person for headshots. And it was like, this doesn't feel right. So enough people told me to take an improv class at the point that I was sort of like resistant to just doing anything people said. But enough people told me that I was like, okay, I'm going to take this class so that I don't ever have to hear anyone tell me to take an improv class again. And then what are you going to tell me to do? And then what have I not done? So I signed up for an improv class at UCB and I was certain I was going to take one level, be like, great, check it off. I don't want to hear about improv ever again. And I fell in love with improv. Immediately was like, this is my jam. I love this. It's so enjoyable. It's so much fun to me. I feel like I found a home of sorts. And it, like creatively, it felt very me. I felt so aligned with me. And I feel really fortunate to, when I think about life in the grand scheme, to have had the experience that I can like, the experience of having something feel so aligned and right. I feel like that's such a elusive feeling. And I also think it's not something that is necessarily easy to come by, and not easy for everyone. Everyone doesn't have that sort of like the luxury of being able to explore and find what that is, or what those things are, those relationships are. So it's one of those feelings I remember just being like, everything about this feels so right, and it makes me feel so alive. And the irony is that I really didn't want to take this class. So
sometimes that happens. The things that we have the most resistance to, actually, like sometimes there's a reason. I don't know what that is, but I took an improv class when I was younger. I was horrible, but there's this phrase that's yes and, right? Like you never say no on a stage with somebody.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you live that way?
Oh my goodness. When I'm in practice, so when I got asked to do the commencement speech at USC, it was for 2020, but then as we know what happened to 2020. But what I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to say to these college graduates. The thing that came to me was the yes and as like corny as it might be to some, it is yes, it is like the basis of improv. It's what improv is based on. I try to live my life that way.
Yeah.
It's not always easy. And when I'm in practice of doing improv, which I haven't been in years, I really feel like that was like one of the best periods of my life, because I felt not only like was I being creatively fulfilled, but then I had this other, like the icing on the cake being like, I'm becoming a better person. I am listening more. I am more adaptable. I can roll with the punches in a way that perhaps is a lot harder to me. I'm hesitant to label myself but I can be type A at times. And so I tried, it's such a beautiful way to live. Like it's what it's what I aspire to be like. And when I am in the practice of improv and doing it creatively, and just in terms of like performing and with friends and for audiences, and I'm doing it regularly as I was at that time before I got on SNL, I feel like I was just such a better person, just like way more easygoing, just like it's all good. Everything, it's all good. And listen, I took my dips emotionally too, but it was like that yes and driving me and making me go like, yes, this has happened. This is reality. This is fact. This is the circumstance. But what am I going to do to add to it? And that's like the beauty of improv. You're doing a scene with somebody and you're like, I could go on and on about this forever, by the way. And I know improv's nerdy, but I love it.
It's not nerdy. It's awesome.
Yeah. And you like have an idea of how you wanted the scene to go. But the thing is, there's this other person, a variable involved, which is life. And they're adding to it as well and doing their thing. And hopefully you guys are building towards something together. And that's like the dream situation. And those make for the best improv scenes. But your ability to yes and your ability to go, all right, I'm listening to what was said to me and I'm going to build on this reality is so powerful and so special. And it's to tap into that and hone that skill is to like really embrace your own power, I feel. Yeah. And so it is a way to live. I want to live more and more like that. At times I'm like, definitely doing the yes, but instead of yes, and, but I'm like, yes, but here's all the reasons I don't like that or this. And that's fair in its own right. But I think being able to say yes and to life is the key, and like enjoying the journey is the key.
I really feel that from you. I feel like to be on SNL means that you're living yes and, because it takes a lot of grit. That's from the outside. That's what it seems. You said you gave yourself 4 years. And when I moved to LA, I gave myself 5 years. And I said, if I see a little traction, then I'll stay. So this really interested me. You're there for 4 years. You're taking improv. You're not really getting any traction. You're taking improv and you're taking these headshots and doing all these things that people are telling you. Did you get pressure from your parents to quit?
I don't know that I would call it pressure from them. You know, what it felt like, I put a lot of pressure on myself in everything. And I think anyone who's ever worked with me would be like, yeah, that's a fact. I don't know that I'll ever change that. I don't know that I'll ever be able to change that, really.
I'm not sure it's a bad thing.
I know. That's how I feel. I'm kind of like, oh no, I kind of, it creates a tension that's maybe not the most fun to always live with. At the same time, the results, which I enjoy results, is like, they're good. So
Right. It's like a high caliber.
I don't know if I think pressure is bad, but I felt a lot of pressure. Yes, exactly. Thank you. So I felt a lot of pressure myself. I felt like I've embarked on this absolutely, unequivocally, for unpredictable thing. There is nothing linear about what it is I'm pursuing. There is no map. There is no take this class, and then after you graduate this thing, you go to this, and then you start applying for jobs, and you'll surely have a job in 8 weeks. And that was really scary for me. There were times when, I remember calling my brother. I don't know if he'll even remember this. He wasn't in a good place, but my brother's only 5 years older than I am, grew up here in the States too. And I remember when I tested for SNL the first time, and I called him and I called my family to tell them that was in 2016. So at that point, I'm 6 years out of college. And I called and I was like, they'll understand this, because all the things I've been doing, they have zero context for. Like, I'm on commercial auditions. I'm not booking any of them, but I'm at commercial, and I had a call back. They don't even know what I'm talking about. But I was like, I'm testing for SNL. And, of course I go, their SNL is flying me to New York because I did such a good job that they want to see me on stage at their stage at 30 Rock. And they were like, great, amazing. They could conceptualize SNL. My family had heard of SNL. But then my brother called the next day and was like, you need to get a full-time job. And I was like, but I'm thinking, I just told you, we're getting a little traction. I'm getting noticed. I'm making some cuts here. And I'm making, it's not a team per se, but okay, there's some forward movement and I'm getting noticed by the big wigs. And he was like, you got to get a full-time job. And I was like, oh, that did not translate to what I was like. And I do remember it was a lot of times talking to my brother, my older brother, where he's a spine surgeon, to be clear, but it's a lot of times talking to him where I'd be like, you have no concept of what I'm describing to you. And I am trying to translate. And you're worried that I'm just hanging out in LA and making barely enough money to get by. I assure you I'm not hanging out. I actually, in retrospect, and even in real time, I remember recognizing this. In my 20s, I did not enjoy as much as I perhaps could have. I was living in Los Angeles, but I was like, the partying and vacations are for people who've made it. And so that was my you don't.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I was like, baby, you don't go on vacation. You work and you hustle. Vacation is for when you made it, And so I actually just today had lunch with, it's funny enough, a girl I met. I have not seen her since 2018. I met on the beach in Hawaii. We met on the beach in Hawaii, and I was so down and out and this shit is not working. I'm going on a vacation. I don't care. This can't be life. This, maybe I got something wrong here. Maybe vacations are for me too, because I'm going crazy. I'm grinding like crazy. I'm not living. I'm not doing anything, because I was fearful of you see so many people in LA. And LA, I love you. There's so many people there that I'm like, you're so busy. It's so easy to be busy in LA and actually also not have a job.
Yes.
The brunches and the hikes and the at any time of day. And I'm not knocking it. I just remember being very scared of that. It'd be really easy to have a full calendar here, but also not.
It's so easy to fall into that. I've never heard anybody talk about that.
Yeah. I'm and I remember I had a friend back in the day, she'd gotten laid off from her job. And
yeah, I
think a month of her being laid off, we were driving somewhere and she was like, I'm actually busier now than I was when I was working full time. And I go, yeah, that's my nightmare, where you think you're you're busy, calendar's packed, but you're not working. You're not doing anything. So I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I would try to articulate that to my family. Some people I think it resonated with or got through to, but some people I'm like, I get it. You're so fearful for me, but I'm like, as much as you want me to succeed, I want me to succeed even more. I promise you, at whatever it is I do, I have to win. So it was not so much from my family. I was raised by a single mom who was incredible. And she was really supportive, actually, but I just felt their concern and their fear, and that just added more pressure to me, honestly, where I was like, I can feel you guys being concern. But I'm like, I'm not out here partying. In fact, I'm doing the opposite and maybe should have had a little more fun while I was on the journey. Yeah.
In hindsight, it's so easy to say that, but like when you're in it, sometimes I feel like the only way to make that climb is really to do it.
Yeah, that's really what it felt like. And when I went on that vacation, it was 2018. I was like, this is my year. I love even numbers. 2018, that's a good year. And I was like, this is going to be a really good year. I'm going to book a pilot. I'm putting it out there. I'm going to sell a show. I'm putting it out there. And the week before of my 30th birthday, it was like, it's all happening. I'm testing for this pilot. Again, that's the like last round audition. You've already signed a contract. And if they pick you, boom, it's time to get to work. For people who don't know what that is. And then I was pitching a TV show and the pitch was going so well. And I'm like, this is crazy. My birthday is on Friday. And I think I'm going to find out I booked this job and I'm going to find out I sold this show. And then my birthday is on Friday and I'm having a party on Saturday. Amazing. And on Friday, it was like, you didn't book the job. It went to someone else. And then also, we just got word from the last place we went to pitch. They're also going to pass on the show, though they took a long time to decide they were going to pass. I wasn't a named talent at the time. So I went to Hawaii, frustrated as all hell in May, broke. The plane ticket was $197 round trip. That trip was so important to me. And I've spoke about it a little bit because I needed to find balance. In retrospect, it's like me treating myself like a human and not a workhorse. And I really believe you set the standard and the tone for how people treat you and how life can treat you and your employer can treat you. And it starts with how you treat you. And I'm glad I learned that boundary then. I am really glad. I wish I'd learned it sooner, but everything I believe happens when it's supposed to. When I'm at my best, I believe that.
Did you feel like people understood your brand of comedy pre-SNL? Because I've talked to a few comedians and particularly the women. I've heard them say like, I went up and I did a sketch or I did this show and it just like wasn't received the way I thought it was going to be. And it wasn't until later that people understood.
Yeah, I don't, what my journey with comedy, I feel like when I came into improv is such a collaborative thing and it was so fun to be in class and playing. But then once I made a main stage team at UCB, I was not having the same fun I thought I would. It's like damn near impossible to make a main stage team. In fact, when you're in class, they tell you the odds of getting on a team here are like lower than that of getting into Harvard. So like, honestly, you should make your goals something else. Like there's other opportunities to perform here other than being on a main stage. And I was like, no, I want that. And so what I found was in it being such a collaborative thing, I found I was easy to like, if I wasn't being assertive, like really assertive, I think I'm a confident performer. I think I'm confident. I can also defer from time to time. And I think that my confidence often is a quiet confidence. That's what how I'll put it. And I think that I was easy to ignore in an improv scene or bulldoze or once I made the main stage, because then I was performing with a bunch of people who believed they were God's gift to earth and comedy. So they're like, what I have to say is more important than what you have to say. Or like the story or the version of this scene I want to do is perhaps better than the one you want to do. And so I'm going to impose my POV onto you.
Yeah.
And I found that I was just easy to ignore. And I remember when I was like, I'm going to quit this main stage team that is so hard to get on. And it's something I've wanted since I started this. I was like, well, what if you tonight do a show, because it's really early on and to be in the main stage team where I go, what if you do a show where you're impossible to ignore? Like, that their default perhaps, which is not supposed to be, is going to be to kind of like throw you under the bus or ignore you in your experience now being on this team. What if you are so loud, they would look crazy if they ignored you? And so that's what I had to do. I remember it vividly. Wow. And So I have found that, and this what's meant to be collaborative, that my voice or my input or my addition to the scene might not always be honored in the same way someone else's might be. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I can either stop doing this thing that I've really loved and I worked really hard to earn a spot on this team, or I can make sure I'm being really bold. And so that's how I perform improv. When I'm performing with people, I'm bold as a result of it, really bold, much to the chagrin of some podcast listeners, but it's on purpose. I'm not mindlessly bold. It's a choice, and it's worked for me, and it has allowed my voice to shine through, especially in situations where it could easily be overlooked or not embraced. And then I did a one-woman show before I had SNL as well, and that was all me, and I got to make it what I want and do things that I thought was funny. And I wrote a bunch of characters I thought were funny, and then I did half of them for the show. And so that was another moment where I'm so grateful that I got to do that one woman show before I came to do this job, because it made me more secure in my own comedic voice and my own comedic point of view.
Yeah.
And had I gotten this job in 2016, before I did the one woman show, I don't know that I'd have the same confidence and grit that I have now that has allowed me to do my job the way I've done it to this point. So it's like, yeah, I think sometimes that like pushback or not having people embrace you, one is incredibly frustrating. At the same time, the positive side, there can be a positive side, I should say. And that is like, if you lean in and you go, I'm going to really discover what it is and stand on what it is I think is fun or funny and what my voice is. That's cool. And I'm so grateful I did that woman show. And I'm grateful I had that experience on main stage at UCB early on.
I think it's really speaks to who you are that you use the struggle to get better instead of to crack or crawl into your shell. You puffed up instead, which is very cool.
Yeah.
I was shocked to hear that when you auditioned for SNL, you didn't even really want the job that much because you are so goal-oriented and so intentional. How did that happen? How did you show up to the audition and not care?
It wasn't, I care about everything that I do. And I really believe if you're going to do something, you better care about it.
Yeah.
When I say I didn't want it, I was like, it just wasn't in my purview. Like there's probably a number of reasons. Like I hadn't really seen myself or anyone I could look to and go, oh, that person looks like me or reminds me of myself, or like that makes me feel like I can be there, so it just is not something I thought about. Like even I grew up watching a lot of stuff that it was really fun and funny, but even as I was watching it, people have asked me like, oh, and did that make you want to do comedy? I was like, no, I just thought Martin Lawrence was really funny and I loved watching it with my brother. Like I love watching Martin with my brothers. I wasn't even thinking about like, oh, I want to do what Martin does. And so there were people on Martin that looked like me, but that even when I wanted to pursue acting, I was like, I started taking drama classes because in my mind, I'm like, that's what actors do. It's drama. This was I have trouble articulating it even when I hear myself describing it in interviews and such. I'm like, I don't even know if I'm articulating this properly. How like this whole career was just not something I knew was actually available to me. So even as I said I wanted to endeavor to become an actor, like I don't even know if I fully even understood what it meant. Or like, if you tell me you want to be a doctor, ego knows to go, well, what specialty? What do you do your residency in? Like, I'm like, I didn't even know that there's like some actors who are good at comedy and some who are good at drama and some who are indie film actors and they shine there. And so like, I didn't know anything about it. I just knew I really enjoyed performing. I really, really enjoyed it. And so I feel like with SNL, it's just not something I had considered. It's just not, I knew SNL, I just hadn't considered it. So when it came to me, I felt grateful to be recognized and that they had expressed interest. At the same time, so much was going well again. This was after my Hawaii trip. And I met Kevin Hart and he was coming on board to produce a show of mine. And that was really exciting. And I was booked a commercial finally. And I was living off of commercial money. I was like, cool. And I'm really enjoying and loving my life in LA for the first time because I didn't enjoy it for a very long time, truly. Right. It was a tough city in many ways. And so I just was like, oh, this feels like a little bit of a disruption, even though it It wasn't on the vision board, though. The vision board had like, I want to be a series regular on a show that has multiple seasons. And I'm like, certainly SNL is certainly that, right? But it's just not, even as I was conceptualizing it for myself, what I had thought of. And so I was like, this feels like this is going to really disrupt the life I've built for myself.
Oh, wow.
That's what it felt like. It was like, I'm finally at a place where I'm enjoying my life in LA. I really feel like I found a really beautiful community. My finances seem to be in order. I'm getting to make something that's mine and to start to journey down that path. And so it felt like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. And so it was also scary because I was like, so much of it was unknown, and SNL is notoriously a challenging place. But I knew I was going to do the test. I wanted to, and I wanted to do a good job. I really wanted to do a good job because I was like, well, I'm going to test. And if I'm going to test, I'm going to do a good job because I want to be associated with good work.
Yeah.
And so that's where that came from. But it lent itself to a looseness that I might not, if I was like so hungry and desperate for it that I was clenching like this and my fists were, I don't know that I would have gone in with the same confidence and looseness and like truly letting my personality shine through in the way that I actually did for that test.
I love that you just went like this because I see the hands that are clenching, and it's so true. Oprah always says not to get so woo-woo, but you have to want for it, wish for it, and then let it go. Like when you hold on, you just can't hold on for dear life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everything in life is meant to be embraced with I've seen soft grip, loose grip, and it's like, enjoy what is here. And, and what you do have, but also know that you may not be able to have it forever. So know that things will fall into that hand, things will flow out of that hand, but other things will fall into the hand. And it's just sort of a cycle in that part of the journey. We want, I don't know how to speak for all of humanity, but many of us want like
stability. Please speak for us, Ego.
Yeah. And to like, once you have something, to possess it and be sure that you possess it and to possess it, because we grapple so much with the uncertainty of life, and that feels scary to do. But there was just such a, and I have friends who are still wanting to book that like big job that sort of changes their careers, and I've had to be like, yeah, when you don't care as much. And when you don't look at it like, you don't make an idol out of it either, where you're like, this is going to be the thing that changes my life. I think it happens, which is easier said than done. But yeah.
You mentioned SNL being a tough environment. It is notoriously known as like a pressure cooker, but it's also so iconic. And I don't use that word lightly. Like I know it's so overused in culture, but it really is iconic. And I heard Kristen Wiig say one time that she loves the puzzle of SNL.
I just saw that interview. Is
that what you love about it?
I literally watched that Conan interview last night. Mere hours ago. It's what I love and what I hate about it. Like, honestly, is that it, but it's my first instinct is to say love. And then I think about weeks when this feels so challenging and crappy, this thing I'm going to say, which is that it changes week to week. Yeah. I love how new every week is, but it's upsetting how new every week is. Cause you go, I want to build momentum. And they'll say there's no such thing as momentum here every week. Like, it doesn't matter what you did on Saturday. Like, you could have had the most viral sketch or the best sketch. And it's like, great, it's Monday. And
which day of the week is the most stressful? Or does it change every week?
I have probably peak anxiety Tuesday into Wednesday, which is our writing night, and then followed by our table read, which is just basically an audition to be like, do you like this sketch? Do you guys like this piece? Will my colleagues laugh at this and thus give it a shot to be in the show? And then after that table read, we wait to see, like, you could have killed in a sketch and a sketch could have like brought the house down at table read. And then you wait to see what sketches are picked for dress rehearsal, and that sketch isn't on there. So you like do the thing and it's like, okay, hold your breath. Okay, we did a good job is this sketch going to go well at table? Okay, it went well. okay, but now I'm holding my breath at the end of table read to be like, well, while they're in the meeting, are they going to pick it? And I'm going to find out at some point between 9:45 and 11 p.m. I'm going to find out if the sketch is going to dress rehearsal. So I'm holding my breath, but trying to be chill with my coworkers and pretend everything's all cool. But I'm like, this is a sign of what my Saturday is going to be like. So, and then Tuesday, it's like getting people to write with you. So much of that job is having writers, and that changes your whole experience there. I've had all those versions of that experience of like having someone who writes for me, to not having someone, that person not being there anymore, to like having a few people interested in writing to me, to having nobody interested in writing for me. So that part is scary and stressful. And like the ever changing, it just feels new every week. And I don't think I'd want to work at a job. Personally, I would be I was just telling someone today, I'm really bored of like, what is it, like workouts with a ton of repetition. I'm like, I get so bored that I'll stop. I was like, when something feels tedious, I'll kind of stop doing it because I'm like, well, this is tedious. And so
do you struggle at all with like managing your personal life? Like, are you, this is personal, but like, are you able to date? Like, this seems like totally untenable.
You know, it kind of is untenable, frankly. I was like looking around at my castmates the other day and I was like, everyone here was sort of like in a relationship, namely my castmates, like when they started this job, and like getting into one seems to be more of a tricky situation. I'm like envisioning our table read and going around table read and thinking about everybody who's in a partnership. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of a hard thing to start a new relationship. And it's hard to maintain a relationship while working there. The hours are not normal for anybody. And it's hard to describe to people who aren't doing it. Many people are off on the weekends and we're working full time. And then other people are getting off of work on Thursday at 4 p.m., but I might not have to go to work until 5 p.m. on Thursday. Yeah. And so it's really, it does pose a challenge. So it's very hard to balance a personal life, be it dating or even like seeing.
There's this amazing story that I read in a magazine that during COVID, you led this discussion in the writer's room, and it prompted everybody to reveal their fears about working at SNL, which is incredible. Millennial and woo-woo and amazing.
I am very, very woo-woo, and I'm sure many of them walked away and was like, what the fuck was that? But it is me. I'm a Pisces.
It's so
I'm
good.
Very sensitive.
This is a woo-woo podcast, so you're in good company.
I truly love that moment. Yeah, but anyway.
Well, what was your fear?
It was like being able to navigate this new relationship I was in while being at the job, because it started over the summer. And then it was like, okay, but I go back to work and I hear from colleagues who are in relationships what their partners say about their own energy once we go back to in season and are working on show weeks. And I was like, oh no, how's this going to impact this relationship? And so that was a few people brought up relationships. It's interesting. Work is just so rewarding when it's rewarding that I'm like, I really like working. Sometimes working more than being in relationship. I think Adam Sandler told me, and I've said this before too, Adam Sandler told me, like, focus on dating in the summers, and while you're here, you can just really focus on work. And there's something to that. There is something to that. Now, he told me that my first season, and now that I'm in my sixth, I'm like, actually, Adam was right. I think it's much easier and far more tenable to like devote myself to work while I'm here during season from September to May, and then spend summer if I want to explore dating and such. I can do that then. But but dating's hard regardless of what.
It's hard in every state, in every city. Yeah. It's hard.
I heard someone today goes, oh, in New York, it's terrible. I go, I don't think it's just New York. I think it's just hard everywhere. Yeah, it's hard everywhere. Yeah.
So too. But I'm going to hold a vision for you. I want someone like really dope to come on the show as a guest host or a musical artist and just like sweep you off your feet, and it's just going to hit you, and they're going to understand your schedule.
Oh, thank you. You know what? I'm going to just go, yes. Love the sound of that. I don't even know that I'm interested in someone in entertainment per se,
Yeah.
because I'm so glad I get to do what I do, but I also
Mhm.
never want to be like, oh, and then I come home and we're talking about this all day, you know? Thank
Okay.
you. I'm receiving a positive manifestation for some miraculous person to come along.
Yeah.
Some miraculous man will make an appearance somehow.
You have such
I'll keep
good
you posted.
energy, I go. So I do think it's just gonna kind of come.
Thank you. I want, you know what? Because I'm done striving. I'll tell you that. Connected to some really spooky people because I see the best in people. And
Yeah.
in retrospect, been like, oh my gosh, it's like really scary where you go, oh my gosh, who was in my house? Like, who was in my house for this long? I don't even, what? Oh my goodness. It's like a violation of sorts. We're like, that was like the Joker in under my
Yes.
roof. And that's so jarring, but I see the best in people, so I have to be careful who I give that energy to.
I had a Joker in my house and it screwed me up for years. So I get it.
It's really, Danielle, it's really jarring. I was telling someone, because someone was like, what's so jarring about it? My car got broken into, and I said, it feels like I'm driving the car around later that day. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. I was like, but you just feel like this ominous, like this, somebody was in here. That's like, I don't know who was in here and what stuff they did. And they were like in here without my consent in a sense. And it's not quite without consent in terms of dating. But it's like, oh, you were, I mean, literally a Joker, two-faced. I'm stunned by these people. And then they go to sleep at night, and I'm like, how do you do that? Like, it's really, really spooky. And now I feel very protective, and not in a like walls up way. I just go, oh, our bodies know too.
That
By
part.
the way.
And I think when you meet one, you start to recognize it now.
Yes. There's no mistaking it. I think I was talking to Keenan about this months ago, but I was like, I think I'm a pretty self-assured person and decisive as well. And many times in my past, just even friends, I feel like are off put by the self-assuredness and the decisiveness that they sense from me. And it made me, their like confusion about it made me be like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be this self-assured. Maybe I'm not supposed to be like this certain about things that I like or don't like. And it made me be like, okay, well, let's be less assured in this way, and let's play devil's advocate all the time to ourselves, and let's second guess ourselves, and let's challenge our own thoughts all the time. And it just created a level of like confusion, and that's how like the weasels get in too. And so I know I'm a pretty discerning person. I'm like, I think I pick up on energy pretty easily. I was telling my therapist, I wish I could pick up on it like 20 to 30% less, because it would just make my mind more settled. But I'm like picking up energy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know to trust it. Keenan was like, it's a gift from God your intuition is
like
a gift
that.
from God, the same way your talent is. And he said that to me in the fall, whether he'll remember it or not, but it really resonated with me. And I shared it with a few friends. I was like, that's a beautiful way to put it. So why spend any time and so much time trying to resist your own intuition? Like, and I'm like, if I could go back in time and just go, oh, your intuition and that icky feeling you have about this person, baby, you're spot on. You're more than spot on. It's even worse than your senses. Like, we know, our bodies know. And like, I was telling my friend Ashley, I go, think about it. I never had to convince myself to be friends with you a year or two deep, being like, I got to stay friends with this person that I don't like. At no point have I been like, I don't want to be friends with her anymore, but I'm juggling like, oh, I'm going to stay her friend. I'm like, I've never had to convince myself you were a good person. Never, Or
that's actually that's a great comparison.
Yeah. So it's like, ease is such a good sign. As a person who loves a challenge, it can be like, you got to determine for yourself what's a worthwhile challenge. And I think that like, sometimes you can tell yourself like, oh, a relationship is a worthwhile challenge. But it's like, what kind of challenge is it, frankly? Is it a challenge to your self-esteem? Is it a challenge to your peace of mind? That's not a worthwhile challenge. That's not the kind of challenge your relationship should be, in my humble opinion, unfortunately, it feels like we have to have some experiences that are less than ideal. There's no teacher like experience if you let it be.
So you mentioned your one woman show and it was called Great Black Women and Then There's Me.
Yeah.
And as I was preparing for this, I was looking at your Instagram and you have a photo FaceTiming Whoopi Goldberg. You have one like embracing Dionne Warwick.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking like, oh my God, there's so many of these great Black women that you've gotten to meet at this point. Do their words stay with you? Has anybody said anything that like really stood out?
Yeah. I mean, Whoopi was like, I really enjoy your comedy and enjoy you as a comedian. I'm like, to hear that from the Whoopi Goldberg, are you kidding me? And my friend has printed out, after I did my first Dionne Warwick talk show on SNL, Dionne, thank God for her, truly, tweeted, you did a wonderful job, baby. You're a star. And my friend printed it out for me and had it framed and it sits on my like vanity. And I get to see that like the legend, the phenom that is Dionne Warwick saw me and embraced me and used her voice to elevate me and bring attention to me. It means the world. It means the world. And it just makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. That was like a cold FaceTime from Whoopi. Like, it's like cold. That's why her hair's in rollers. My hair's wrapped up. I just woke up. It was a Wednesday before table read. It was the boost I needed. And I'm so encouraged by them and their kindness towards me.
I think you're on the path to be that person for the next generation of a lot of performers. You have a greatness in you. And I know I'm not the first person to tell you that, but I want you to know that I see it.
Thank you, Danielle. That means a lot to me. Thank you. That means a lot to me and I receive it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for receiving it. Okay. I do a quick rapid fire.
Okay.
Last time you laughed like really, really hard.
Last night. A random Instagrammer. So thank you. And I was like screaming at this restaurant. So funny.
I'm always amazed by how funny people are. Like the comments on Instagram are unbelievable.
Are you kidding? So funny. That's like the best part.
Yeah, I know. It's the only reason I follow Shade Room. Like I don't want to be in on the gossip, but I need the comment section.
The comments, man, they're so good. Guys, keep on. You guys are so funny. And I'm like, these people aren't even comedians. They're so funny. Anyway, yes, I'm right there with you.
Okay, this is sort of a cliche question, but do you have a dream host and musical pairing for SNL?
Oh my goodness. Dream host. Okay. Dream host, Beyonce paired with Jay-Z as music.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I love that.
Or I'm going to say like Jamie Foxx and Jay-Z. But yes, that's it for now.
Favorite perk of fame?
Favorite perk of fame. Restaurant reservations that are hard to get. I love food so much, and thank you to every restaurant. I want to shout out Lilia in New York. They always take such good care of me. Like, I feel so deeply cared for by them, not just the reservation. Like, they're amazing. That team over there is incredible. That's in Brooklyn. They're so good. But restaurant reservations, it's all I care about is food, honestly, food and music. And so, yeah, I would say getting to eat.
Food, music, comedy, 3 things.
Yeah.
Okay, I do a question everything question each time. So we're virtual, so tell me when to stop.
Okay, stop.
Okay, a mistake you made along the way that you'd like to save other people from.
Oh, that's great. A mistake I made along the way that I'd like to save other people from. This is a great question, and I feel like I made quite a few, so I'm like trying to think of I don't even know if it's so much a mistake. Well, in some sense, it was like taking so long to get into improv, or like not, or another way to look at it is like there was an improv team on my campus at USC, and I wonder if I had been like involved in improv while in college, if I wouldn't have enjoyed my experience in college more. So like whatever space you're in, I would advise people to explore the vastness of that space. So all I knew was like, I'm a bio major, and I know these people that live in my dorm, who some of them are also science majors and some of them are other majors, but these are the people I know. And then my friends are a function of this, which isn't a mistake. Seems pretty standard college. I wish I'd done more exploring of what was available to me instead of getting too cozy.
What is a book that you've read, something that you think everybody should read?
Everyone should read The Four Agreements. I'm obsessed with that book, specifically the second agreement. Yeah, the second agreement is so liberating if you could only embody it, but don't take anything personally. Everything everyone does is about them. The good stuff, the bad stuff, like how liberating to think about that and really internalize that. But I think everybody should read that book. I think everybody should read it. And I think the world would be a better place if they did. Yeah.
Okay. My last question is, what's the smartest decision you've ever made?
Smartest decision I ever made was betting on myself and taking the risk to like move to LA and then practicing betting on myself at every turn in life, honestly, where it presents itself, be it like getting what I'm owed financially and betting that I'm worthy of that and not being scared of the unknown, but just like betting on myself. Betting on myself that's the best decision I ever made.
I go, thank you so much. I needed this more than I can tell you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad we got to talk today. Thank you I know we've been trying to make this happen for some time,